Acta non verba is a Latin phrase that means actions, not words. If you want to know what somebody truly believes, don't listen to their words. Instead, observe their actions. I'm Marcus Aurelius Anderson, and my guest today truly embodies that phrase. Raul Mendez, on a fateful night on July 2022, his family and he fell victim to a mass shooting. And despite sustaining a gunshot wound to the head, he summoned strength and resolved, retrieved, re- retrieved his concealed carry weapon, and eliminated the threat, saving his life, his family's, and everyone that was there. This man now is a testament to what carrying a weapon is, why it's so important for us to do it every day. Lots of times, a weapon is not a sword, it's a shield. We're protecting those around us, and that's why it's so important to be diligent about that. His website is One Eye Defense. That's the number one, the letter I, defense.com. And you can follow him on social media, and we're going to have links to all that stuff in our show notes. Raul, my friend, you were amazing. Thank you for being here today and for taking the time out. I love your Rock Out with your Glock Out t shirt that we can get at your website, as a matter of fact. Yep, I love that. How are you
Thank you.
doing? And
I'm doing good.
you're doing great. And you were recently at a Terran Tactical not too long ago, right?
Yeah, did go out there, did some shooting, had a great time with Taryn. Great guy. I mean, yeah,
Yeah.
that's all I gotta say.
No, he's
Awesome
amazing.
times.
Yeah, that guy can shoot the
Oh yeah.
wings off a fly, man. It's crazy. He's so good.
Oh yeah.
I interviewed Tatiana not too long ago,
Oh, okay.
so it was when I saw that you were out there and I saw that you had your weapon out there. It's like that's amazing. Um, so I don't think people understand how important it is for us to be vigilant, as you were talking about. And before we hit record, you made a comment about how, because I know people like that too. Sometimes they'll carry a weapon when it's convenient or when it's comfortable, but they don't understand that once you start carrying it every single day, it does feel comfortable. And it's almost like when you don't have it, you almost feel like you lost your watch or your phone. Like, where's it at? It's almost like it kind of hugs us and keeps us nice and secure, is the way I look at it, because I've been carrying for
Yeah.
years as well. Tell us why it's so important.
Oh man. I mean, now more than ever. I mean, before I would always carry. Ever since had my first daughter, I became a
Mm,
father.
there you
I just felt like it was I see this little beautiful creature, this little beautiful girl, and I was like, wow, like I'm responsible for that. You know,
go.
I'm, anything happens to that, I'm the one responsible for that. So after that, I just decided like, hey, I'm gonna face, evil or whoever wants to do harm to us with equal force. And what is that? Firearms. So since that day, I just started carrying. Got my first pistol when I was 21. Started carrying everywhere, everywhere, and that was just my main goal. It was like I love what you mentioned. That was our shield. I was the family shield, and that was my tool to shield his family. So I'm not gonna lie. I've fallen to the I'm going somewhere, grocery store, or hey, I'm going to my sister's house, and I forget my firearm. And it's kind of like, oh well, I'm only going here. I'm only gonna be there 10 minutes. I'm only picking something up, or I'm gonna go just barbecue at my sister's house. It's all family. Well, I'll be fine. And I've done that a lot. And on July 3rd of 2022, I mean, my belief in caring was actually tested, and it paid off. Because that day, I could have easily forgot my firearm and been like, you know what, I'm only going to a friend's house with a bunch of friends and family. I'll be all right. But, just muscle memory. I grabbed it, appendix carry. It was a Glock 36, chambered in 45,
Nice.
subcompact.
Yes.
One in the chamber. Most importantly, one in the chamber. This is my safety.
Yep. Primary
Uh,
safety.
had it, had it there all day, all night. Well, again, that paid off that night because something horrific happened. This neighbor, this guy that I personally never met, he just comes into the house. We had met him outside, small talk while we were lighting some fireworks, but he makes his way into the house, and the host, like a friendly neighbor, just, tells him, "Oh, I met you. You want something to eat? Sits him down. Here's some food." And my wife had mentioned that something was off about this guy. And that's where instinct, that gut feeling comes in. And now, we've had that talk about a gut feeling. You get a gut feeling, do not ignore that. This speaks more than, that, because your brain will just automatically start trying to make excuses like, no, I'm okay, no this, no that. But trust that gut feeling. Well, that gut feeling she had turned into this guy in the middle of eating, stands up, pushes his plate forward, pulls out his firearm, and just starts shooting at the whole party. I mean, at that point, people are yelling, people are running. Well, as soon as he stands up, his first victim was one of my buddies. I was literally standing right in front of him on the other side of the kitchen island. So they're opposite of each other. Well, he puts 2 rounds in him, shoots him right here, right in the throat. He hits the ground. I'm about 10, 15 feet away. My back is, facing them. So I'm faced away. And as soon as I hear, just those gunshots and, that mayhem, I turn around and he catches me right here. Literally, I have a dimple right here where that bullet went in. Well, it went in through my whole face, fractured everything and came out my left eye. I mean, at that point, that was a straight, ambush, no warning, no nothing, didn't know what was going on. While I hit the ground, I hit the ground on my knees and my wife runs to me. Didn't know I was hit. She did see me hit the ground on my knees, but not knowing if I'm taking cover, if I was hit, or what's going on. So she tries to pick me up, get up, let's go, get up. And she grabs my face and, just turns it towards her. And that's when she just sees, just blood everywhere, this fountain, just dripping down my face. And at that point, she's just like, my husband's dead, He just got struck. He just got hit right in the face, right in the head. He's dead. Your odds of surviving a headshot, less than 1%, or what they say, you know, people don't truly survive, a headshot. So she does the next best thing. She gets this tunnel vision, runs straight for the bedroom where my 2 daughters and other children were in playing. Well, she closes the door, barricades it with the dresser, and she's 7 months pregnant at the time.
Jeez.
7 months pregnant. So, she's showing and everything and barricades the door, puts the kids in the closet, tries to throw clothes and all kinds of stuff, over them and just tells them, be quiet, don't make a noise. I don't care what you hear. Just stay in here and hide. Don't let anybody hear you. Well, she's just waiting there, just waiting when he's gonna come in and find her and kill her and just hoping, just praying to God that he doesn't find those children in the closet. At that point, he just ran towards the front door. You have a bunch of people trying to run out the front door, and he just starts shooting at everybody running out the front door. Catches people in the back, shoulder, and he catches another one of my friends in the leg. So he hits the ground. Couldn't, he starts trying to crawl out. Well, he literally just walks up to him, walks in front of him where he's crawling. And as my friends is looking up at him and telling him, like, why are you doing this? I got a family, no care in the world. He just points his pistol at the top of his head and pulls the trigger.
Jeez, point blank.
Yeah, so that was, friend number two that unfortunately, was murdered that night. So his killing spree, his desire to take everybody out doesn't end there. My buddy lived in, those communities, HOA, they're all like cookie cutter homes and all. So I'm sure he probably has the same layout, so he knows where everything's at.
Yeah,
So
absolutely.
he just makes his way to the master bedroom. You have what, three girls and two children hiding there, and he starts trying to kick down the door. And one of my other, friends, she's on the other side of the door. He's trying to open it, so he just starts trying to shoot through the door, shoot the deadbolt or the lock.
Mhm.
She gets shot maybe six times.
Jeez.
Luckily they were all in the arm and the leg, nothing major. Well, he makes his way through the door, and I mean, this brave woman literally, that mama bear comes out of her, and
Yes.
she's like, I'm not done here. She literally jumps on top of him, grabs for it, reaches for his arm, and will not let go of that man's arm where he's holding that pistol. And so, he starts firing, but every shot missed after, she literally jumped on him.
Wow.
One thing she had mentioned when I was, out of the hospital is she was yelling my name because she knew I was one of the only people of friends that would always carry, a concealed firearm.
Yes.
So she was yelling my name, Raul, Raul. Well, one of the other women that was hiding in the closet, she starts looking around and she finds a rifle, but she couldn't load it.
Mm.
She didn't know how to use it. She didn't know what to do with it. So she comes out with the rifle, and this man is literally jumped behind her, wrapped his, legs around, her waist or that, and just tries to finish her off by choking her out. In the middle of choking her out, this brave other girl comes out and starts trying to fight him too.
Um,
Well, they're both yelling my name, and little do they know that I'm bleeding out in the dining area. I just had a gunshot wound to the head, and little do they know that I'm dead, or I should be dead. I'm
mm.
down. But honestly, like at that point, I don't think God was ready to let me go out like that. I don't think he was ready to, like that wasn't my time.
Yeah.
You know, he knew I had a baby coming in the way, two little girls, and something picked me up. It wasn't me. I
Yeah.
didn't have the strength nor nothing, but something picked me up and reached for my firearm, knowing 100% that there's one in the chamber, no
Yep.
physical safety, just the
Yep.
trigger finger.
Yes.
And I'm about 5, 8 feet from the back door. So I had a decision to make, or, the autopilot me or whatever, had a
Yes.
decision. I could have easily ran out that back door, but I didn't know where my family was, and I don't know who was yelling. I knew I was with friends and family, so I knew I had to go do something about it. So I quickly, made my way towards, that master bedroom, half blind, or I'm thinking
Yeah.
80% blind because
Yeah.
this eye is completely gone and my face is covered in blood. So, when you have all this stuff all over your face, like it
Of
still
course.
blurs out your vision. So,
Jeez.
I couldn't see anything, but something told me, like, right there, pull, pull the trigger, pulled it four times, and, all four hit center mass with two hitting his heart. The two that hit his heart definitely did it, and he just died instantly right there. And that threat, I just eliminated that threat right then and there. And pretty much that's how the story ended. And you know, Unfortunately, friends died, but I'm very thankful for the outcome. Very thankful, I thank God that I'm here and I'm still get to be a part of, my daughter is my wife, and I got to meet my beautiful little, newborn, which she's about to turn 3 this year, and it's been such a
Oh,
blessing.
congratulations.
Thank you.
I'm uh, I'm blown away by this. I was in the light infantry, and I never saw combat with weapons, but like you said, that instinct, that training takes over, but people don't realize how embedded it is in you sometimes. And like
Yeah.
you said, when you were picked up, you're like, maybe I am going to die. Maybe I will bleed out. But this man is not going to take anybody else's life today. And a lot of people probably would have run the other direction. They would have run away from the gunfire. They would have had self preservation in their minds. But he didn't do that.
Unfortunately, yes, a lot of people ran that night, leaving family, leaving spouses, leaving kids behind, and it kind of shows you. I'm not saying that that makes them or 100% or they're a bad person
Yeah.
or not or maybe they are. It just really shows where their heart is. But a lot of people ran, left their kids behind, left their spouse, like the host. He ran out the front door. He left his 2 boys and his wife in the master bedroom. He was coming out of that master bedroom. He had just finished using the restroom. He walks out. He sees me get shot, which he mentioned to me after I got out of the hospital. He had a rifle. He has, firearms more in that closet in that bedroom. He could have easily just whoops, turned around, wife, kids, get your butts in the closet, get ready, let's
Yes.
go.
Yes.
But no, he ran out. And I lost a lot of friends that day, that night, and not just to death. So
My gosh.
honestly, like when you're actually put in a life or death situation, it really shows what you're about, the training, and or who you are deep down inside. So I feel I'm not saying, it's all bragging rights or anything because I never want to brag about something like this. But in my family's eyes, like I earned my stripes. They know where my heart is and they know what I'm willing to do, fight to the end to make sure they make it.
Yeah, I've always said that the way that you conduct yourself in the face of adversity is an indication of how you will conduct yourself in every other part of your life.
Right.
And like you said, especially with social media today, everybody's talking about bravado and I do this and, you know, hashtag team no sleep and grind 24/7. But those people are not actually doing anything, right? They're not actually in the line of fire. They've never been in the line of fire. And the fact that they don't carry a firearm tells me that they are not prepared to step into the line of fire if it ever happened.
Right.
And so, again, just being prepared. And there's something about it. Like carrying a firearm is like life insurance. You pray to God you never need it. But man, if you need it, it's nice to know that it's there. And it's
Nice
nice
to
to
know
know
that
that
it's
you have the
there.
training. Absolutely.
Oh yeah,
But that's why we
absolutely.
do it. And I love that you carry a 45 because I know a lot of people are very 9 millimeter happy, which is fine. But I think that yours is a great testament to that. You didn't have trouble controlling the recoil. You didn't have trouble putting 4 shots center mass because in those kind of proximities, it's about getting in there, being aggressive, and making sure that the bad guy is done and he doesn't hurt anybody else.
Exactly.
And you're a
No,
testament to that.
definitely.
Wow.
And I mean, I know the media tries to portray that, a good guy with a gun is a fantasy or a good guy with a gun never gonna happen. Um, like I tell people, I have minimal training. I'm not law enforcement. I've never been law enforcement. I've never been military. I've never done anything like that. I'm just a regular average Joe, if you want to call it, just a father, a husband that just, does regular things, works a regular job, does regular things after work, just spend time with the family, and The only thing that I did or my preparedness was get introduced to firearms at a young age, which have, I thank my father and my older brother, which he's 10 years older than me. And it becomes a lifestyle, just
Absolutely.
like a hobby or something you can kind of say. When you build a hobby, you learn about it, you get comfortable around whatever it is,
Hmm.
and you kind of become an expert on it. You
Yes.
don't have to be like a super expert, but you become an expert maybe at a level that most people are not, or most people that like the girl, she didn't
Yes.
know how to load a gun, she didn't know how to do any of that. As she would have known how to load a gun and maybe had a little bit of training, she'd have been like, oh, this is this, let me put this here, let me get it. And
Yes.
she would have been the one telling this story,
Hmm.
instead of me, so. Or thing with my wife, if she would have had better training, she would have known, hey, my husband's carrying.
Mm.
Before this guy, I see him walking away, trying to shoot towards the front door. Let me reach down to his waist, pull it out, and let me just go,
Yeah.
shoot a few rounds on him and try to bring him down.
Yeah.
She would have been telling this story now. You know what I mean?
Yes.
But again, I'm not what you would expect. And I feel that's why I have that, or I feel like that's the responsibility I have to tell my story, to tell people like, look, you would expect, oh, this guy stopped a mass shooting and this, but he's, retired Navy SEAL, or,
Yeah.
or something crazy, law enforcement, or, ex-cop or retired cop or something. But no, I'm not none of that. I'm just like everybody else. And if I can do it by just being, prepared, mentally,
Yes.
physically being able to do it and just having the right tool, then my story, if something similar or something horrific was to happen to somebody else, they can be the one to stop it and protect.
Yes.
Because actually, a good guy with a gun truly does save lives. And I'm that testimony, I'm that living proof. And that's why I really want to get my story out there as that living proof.
Yeah, I love it. And I love that you're telling your background. You're like, I'm not dry fire practicing, 2 hours a day. I'm not going out and doing all this incredible training with like all these people. It's like, but again, it is sort of a fundamental truth that if we can get one or two body mechanics down, if I can get that draw, if I can reinforce it, if I know where my bullets are going, and I can put those bullets on site right now, if I can squeeze that trigger, that's enough to stop, like you said, a bad guy with a gun. The only thing that stops him is a good guy with a gun. And you're a
Exactly.
great example of that. So, for people that are listening, what advice would you give them when it comes to being prepared, when it comes to firearms? Um,
The only advice, get comfortable with the tool. Don't fear the tool, because the tool is not gonna, they say, oh, guns kill people. No, guns don't kill people. It's just a tool. It's actually mental illness. Mentally ill people kill people. You know what I mean? So get comfortable with it, train with it at home. Make sure, physically and visually inspect, no round, do some dry firing, some drawing out of the holster, all that good stuff. And that is just gonna build that muscle memory. It's like, do it 1,000 times, do it 10,000 times, do it
mhm.
100,000 times, and all of a sudden that which you're practicing just becomes second nature, that you'll do without even thinking. Like, you can be having a conversation and all of a sudden just be drawing your gun without even thinking.
Yes.
Becomes that muscle memory. So I would say just train, train, and train and get comfortable with your tool. That's the first thing. And second thing, carry religiously.
Yes.
Carry religiously with one in the chamber. Get comfortable with carrying one in the chamber. Because before you get into a car accident, you're not going to be putting your seatbelt as you're swerving and about to hit, another vehicle. You have it ready to go. So just carry religiously, be willing to turn around. You're leaving to the grocery store and you're halfway there and be like, damn it, I forgot my firearm. Turn around. You
Yes.
never know. There's so much evil out there in this world. I mean, so much evil. And it's up to us, us law-abiding citizens.
Yes.
I consider myself, a sheepdog. They say it takes a wolf to beat a wolf. Well, no, I'm not evil like a wolf. I mean, I'm a sheepdog. I will, show teeth and jump in front of my sheep, in front of my family, in front of a fellow citizen if needed, to stop a threat.
Yes.
And so you never know. You never know when you need it. And it's up to us to face that evil with equal force. And that equal force, I feel it's one of these.
I, I absolutely agree. And the people that we see the people that are doing this, we see the people that are opening up on people, and they do it in an environment where they think somebody's not going to be armed. So they're literally almost like that bully that like puffs their chest out, and the minute you step to them, that's when they back off. So these are people that again, they think they have power because they have a firearm, but they aren't used to somebody coming back at them. So like you said, even an
Correct.
ounce of training is worth a pound of prevention when it comes to this kind of stuff because
Oh yeah.
they don't know how to defend, they don't know how to maneuver, they don't know how to get off the X. They're just standing there and shooting and expecting people to run. And then
Right.
somebody stands up and then they go, "Why is this person standing up?" It's too late. And that's how we have to think of
Exactly.
it. So if you're not going to do it for
That's so
you,
true.
do it for the people around you. Do it for the people that you love. If you claim that you love your family, do this. If you have life insurance, if you have car insurance, do this. A Glock is like less than $600. You don't have to have fancy optics. You don't have to have all the crazy stuff on it. It just needs to be something that you're proficient with. You made that comment about this is a tool, right? In the military, they says I'm the weapon, this is a tool. Because
Correct.
if I do it the other way around, this is the weapon and I'm just a tool. So that shows us the way that we have to look at this stuff, right? And again, like any sort of tool, if you know how to use it, you don't have to fear it. I love that you're talking about having one in the chamber, um, because some people there's a taboo around that. But just like you said, if I'm drawing this weapon, I have to pull it out and I have to put it into action. I'm not going to have time to rack it. That's one additional movement. That's one additional thing that keeps me from getting my hands together to actually pull the trigger and take the threat out. We
That
think
one
that
or 2 seconds from racking it could be too late, and that could be your life or one of your loved ones' life.
absolutely. So, like you said, if it's inconvenient, go back and get it. If it's uncomfortable, carry it. If it's uncomfortable, find a weapon that you will carry. Like even a Glock 26 that has it's a 9 millimeter that has like 7 rounds in it, that could be enough. Your situation was 4 rounds with a 45, but many of these encounters that we're seeing today, it's less than 4 rounds and it's in a very close proximity. It's very much a point and shoot type of environment. So again, you're a great testament to how, you weren't doing like John Wick stuff. You weren't doing cartwheels and jumping over and doing like hip tosses and then shooting him. Like you were actually just pointing and shooting. And that's all it takes sometimes.
That's all
Well,
it takes.
obviously in real time. That's amazing. So life after this,
uh, Life after that is completely different. I mean, you learn to appreciate every single day, every single minute, every single second. You know, that is worth gold. Your time. You just learn to appreciate the small things. I mean, just waking up in the morning is worth more than $1 billion, worth more than $1 billion. And that's just such a great feeling, just being able to breathe, take another deep breath, and just, spending time with the family, just seeing, my little girls, smile,
Mhm.
dealing with their problems. And, it's like, your problems ain't, okay, we'll deal with it and all that. But, you know, it sucks that, my daughters were there and they had to deal with that. And it was just such a tough life lesson where, the emotion, the crying, and me coming out of the hospital, and even, weeks later, the crying and just, it sucks as a father where It's like, come here, cry, let it out, give me a
Mm.
hug, I will hold you. I'm here to protect you. But then at the same time, it's like you grab them and like, look, toughen up. This is life. This is what happened. Don't let it bring you down.
Right.
Live life to the fullest, continue to live life and don't live life, fearful. Don't fear life, don't fear doing this or that, but don't get caught off guard. Listen to your gut feeling. Be prepared. I will not always be here to protect you. Let's go shooting. Let's go find you a firearm. Daddy, I'm only 11. I'm only 12. I don't care. You're going to start today. Which one do you like? Oh, I like this one. Okay, feel it. We're at the gun shop. Feel it. How does it feel in your hands? Here, let's feel this one. Feel it. I like this one. Okay, I want this one. Boom. This one's yours. Let's go out shooting. They get emotional. Or my younger one, we went out shooting and she kind of started crying. And it's just like, okay, we stopped. Just the gunshots and all that just brought flashbacks. Like, okay, let's get the emotion out. Let's get all this. Let's talk about it. Are you done? Let's go back and shoot. This is what it's gonna take to toughen you up. But again, don't live life in fear. Just be prepared. And that was probably the toughest thing, you know, dealing, after just the emotion of my kids. And then, it just sucks as a father having to tell them like pretty much in the nicest way, like shut the hell up, deal with it. This is life. Let's prepare for it in case it ever happens again. And no kid, no child should ever have to go through what they went through, and see the things they saw,
But
you know.
but like you said, you're not doing it to be mean. You're like, I love you, and this is why I'm telling you this. If you love
Exactly.
somebody, you tell them the truth. If you want them to like you, you say sugar-coated stuff to make them feel
Yeah, you
good.
sugarcoat it. Exactly.
Yeah, and in this situation, like you said, I mean, obviously, there's no way to sugarcoat that.
Yeah, exactly. And besides that, I mean, some time after, I just kind of had this feeling. I had a conversation with one of my cousins, which is like a brother to me, like an older brother, older cousin. And he's like, what are you going to do about it with your story? I'm like, I don't know. Nobody wants to hear it. I'm like, all the news outlets just straight up ignored it. They don't give a shit about my story.
Yeah,
Like, well, that's more reason to tell it. They don't want to
absolutely.
hear it for a reason because, mainstream media hides stories like this.
Yeah,
And what are you going to do about it? Who are you going to tell? And how are you going to tell it? So, I just kind of meditated and just thought about it, prayed about it. And it's like, shit. I reached back out to my cousin and he was like, I was like, I want to tell my story. He's like, good. NRA headquarters is probably about 10 minutes away from my house.
well, you're right
I'm
there.
going to go tell them
Yeah,
if they know you, if they heard your story. And so he went and told them my story. And they're like, holy shit. I never heard about this. He's like, yeah, of course not. He's like, we got to meet him. So we did a Zoom meeting literally like 3 days later on a Friday. And after the Zoom meeting, like the guys are like, holy shit, are you available in a week from today? And I'm like, yeah, bro, I'm recovering. Like, I ain't doing shit. I'm just at home all day. They're like, cool, we're flying out from Virginia. Give us your address. This, we'll set it up.
wow.
Flew out, had two gentlemen come, and we recorded a video. We went over, like, what do you want to say? Did a script together, recorded a video. They took me out and the family out to the range, did
Beautiful.
some photo shooting there and all that. And that was my first video I made. And that video, within a matter of, a week and a half, it hit, like 2 million views. And at that point, that's when, everybody started reaching out, like to the NRA, like, hey, this guy Raul, he did a video with him. Can we get his number?
Yeah,
Hey, this guy, can we get his number? Fox, one of Tucker Carlson's producers, like, hey, can we get his number? And they're like, reached out and like, hey, we got your number from, of course, the NRA always asks me, like, hey, Tucker's producer wants your number. I'm like, give it to them.
Give it to
Like,
him.
hey, this person wants you. I'm like, give it to them. So we set up interviews and stuff like that. But of course, it hit some traction, and then it just seems like even social media, like they start shadow banning, they
Oh
start
yeah.
shutting it down, and
Yeah.
it's like we get silenced no matter what. The mainstream media, TV wise, and or like the news outlets
Mm.
ignore, and then if you actually get a good decent video that's gaining traction, well, now you got Meta like Instagram and Facebook that shuts you down and
Yep.
prevents you from getting any more views or followers.
Yep.
So, it gained some traction, but then again, social media just shut it down, so it just kind of died down. So I just feel at this point I'm not giving up. I will continue to tell my story. I know you reached out, and whoever's
Absolutely.
reaching out and willing to have me and digitally create a video of me telling my story and then throw it out there, I'm more than willing. And like I had mentioned before, how can they reach you? I'm like, at this point, like I really don't give a shit if they follow me, if they this or they reach me. As long as they hear my story and it impacts them to the point
Yes.
where like shit, it can happen to me. Now I'm gonna start caring more religiously, and I'm gonna train a little more, and I'm gonna show this video to maybe my mom or my dad that's semi anti-gun. I'm gonna show this video and see if I could change their mind. Or I'm gonna show this to my spouse that hates when I carry or hates the fact that I have a firearm. Let me show them this video. And I've had people reach out like, hey, I showed this to my girl and she hated my gun. And fuck, now she's telling me every time, do you have your gun with you?
Yes.
And you know what? If I can save one life or, protect not me, physically being there, but because of my story, they went out and became prepared and,
Yes.
they saved their lives or stopped the threat and all that. If I can hear if there's actually one story out there that they were impacted because of me and that saved somebody, then I feel this whole everything I'm doing of speaking up was totally worth it.
It's the ripple effect. But the thing is, this is not just a small ripple. Like this is a huge boulder that you've thrown in there, and now these rings are coming out. And I know that this happened 3 years ago, but continue telling your story. We need to get somebody. We need to get you to write a book. We need to get them to make a movie or something on Netflix about this. Like we need to do all that stuff because this is what we need to hear more of. Um, and let's go ahead and talk about some of those things. A lot of people that are anti-gun or they're on the fence about it. If you look at any place that has the most violence, it's the same places that have the most gun control. Because
Correct.
to a criminal, the criminal doesn't give a shit about any sort of gun law. They're not getting that gun lawfully. They're getting it from the street. They're getting it on the black market from somebody, and they're going to go out and do whatever they want to do with it. And anybody that's trying to stop law abiding citizens from legally having a weapon to defend themselves is literally taking your ability to defend yourself, your family, your freedom.
Yeah, definitely. And I mean, politicians and even like different states, and they try to use the whole scare tactic. Like I was actually scrolling through social media, and I'm sure this happened recently. What is it? The guy that defended himself and shot the intruder,
Yes.
he's now being charged for why the
True.
hell did he have a gun? You
Yeah.
know what I mean?
Yeah. Yeah.
Thankfully, I grew up in California.
Mm.
I was born and raised there. Went from San Jose, where I was born, grew up a little bit there. And by the time I was entered into middle school, I moved to Southern California near the LA County.
Mm-hmm.
And I mean, it's all anti-gun.
Yeah.
I mean, you do get a lot of people that, are pro guns, and then you have the violence, the gangbangers and all that. They have guns,
Mm-hmm.
but these guns are off the street. You hear drive-bys and oh, this guy got shot. Oh, he got shot at the park. He this and that. And like, I'm sure he didn't get his gun legally. I'm
Guaranteed.
sure he doesn't give a shit if he gets, if he gets caught or not. He's
No.
still carrying it. But if somebody like me that is fearful for their life or wants to protect their family, and I'm carrying out there, I will get in trouble.
Yeah.
If I, even just flash it to somebody coming at me with a knife per
Yep.
se, and I'm with my kids, and I stop the threat. He turns around and runs away, but the guy standing over there sees me pull out a gun, and guess what? Now I'm going to get charged, and I'm going to go to prison.
Yeah.
Why? Because I wanted to ensure that myself or my family don't get shot or don't get stabbed or don't get hurt.
Yeah.
So these laws don't work. On my store or on my Instagram, on my reels, I had posted this one reel. Some Mexican politician or some Mexican guy, politician, well dressed in a suit, and he starts talking about, gun control and gun laws. He's like, what year were guns banned in Mexico? And then it was, whatever it was, 1970, or I don't know what year. He's like, how's that going? Did it stop any crime? Did it stop any deaths? No, it only got worse. Who runs Mexico? Oh, the cartels and the hitmen and all that. Oh shit, okay. So gun control doesn't work, right? Because Mexico clearly doesn't fucking work. And then
Right.
he gave an example of someplace in Europe, Switzerland or fuck, I don't know where. He's like, look at this country. They got fucking guns up the, and how many murders do they have on guns? Almost zero to none. He's like, damn. So it's not the gun problem. The guns are not the problem, and that clearly shows. And it's you know, just incredible to just see and other people's mentality
Yeah.
that the gun is the problem. You ban guns and it's only going to get safer. No, you ban guns, you're only stripping away protection from the law-abiding citizens because the criminals don't care to break the law. That's why they're called criminals.
Right. Yeah. They already have a criminal record. They don't care. If anything gives them more street cred when they go back in.
Yeah, exactly.
And all these politicians that are talking about gun control, like you said, they're doing it to try to get people on their side or trying to get reelected because of this bullshit ideology. But the irony is, those very people are guarded by men that are
Yeah,
they're armed to the
exactly.
teeth, right? So that's why
Let's
they
disarm
definitely
the
want that.
citizens, but my bodyguards will have, they'll be heavily armed with firearms. Why? Because my life as a politician is worth more than your life
There it
as a
is.
citizen. And that's, and it's crazy how, a lot of people do believe, that taking away the firearms is only going to make the streets safer. But no, that's not how it works.
No, I mean, if that's the case, then we should just make drugs illegal. Oh wait,
You know?
we did that. How did that work out?
Exactly. Exactly. The whole war on drugs is it's like the worst. It's not doing anything. It's only empowering the cartels.
Right,
It just built like one of the biggest multi-billion-dollar empires
right.
because now they can charge a lot more
Oh yeah.
and make so much money
Yep,
on building this empire.
yep. And
If the US literally said, hey, all drugs are illegal, maybe, let's say, or there's no more longer war on drugs. People start making it here. They don't need to ship it from Colombia, Mexico, and all
right.
this. And the cartels would literally die overnight.
That's it.
What I feel. Will it happen? Would that actually happen if that were the case? I don't know. But just my point is that the war on drugs is failing. It built this huge empire, and this war on guns, it's not working either. Look at Chicago. It's like murder capital of the US, and they have one of the strictest gun laws in the US.
Yep.
You
Chicago,
got
LA, New
Philly, I mean
York, Philly. Yep.
LA,
All of them.
I mean just all these places that are just so strict on guns, yet they're the murder capital of the US.
Yeah,
So
it's
that tells
hilarious.
you something, right?
I think so. I
Gun
mean,
control, these gun bans on law-abiding citizens doesn't work.
no. And it doesn't mean that you have to have an arsenal at your house, but it does mean that you should at least be able to protect yourself. And just like you're saying, I love that you're introducing your kids to it at a young age. Uh, my wife carries, my daughter knows how to use every weapon that we have because, like you said, if there's a situation, she should be able to pick up a Glock, a revolver, an AR, an
Whatever it
AK, a
is.
shotgun, whatever it is, a bolt action, and be able to defend herself or somebody else. So we're
Exactly.
just trying to empower these people. And in my opinion, like your ability to defend yourself is a human right. It's a natural human right. You can say all these other things are
Definitely.
human rights, but that's the first one. And if you don't have that one, the rest of them don't matter anyway.
The rest of them don't matter. Exactly. I feel again, it's a God-given right to defend yourself, defend your property, defend your family.
Absolutely, brother.
And fortunately, not everybody sees it like that.
Yeah.
But
What is the biggest misconception about firearms?
just just that guns kill people. I'm
Yeah,
gonna say
I agree.
you know they say that there's more murders with knives and stab and sharp objects and firearms. Why aren't they trying to ban knives?
Exactly.
Why aren't they trying to ban, hey, if I hey, you want to buy a butcher knife to cut your steak? There's gonna be a background
It's
check
a
and it's gonna go through the
2 week
fucking
layout.
FBI 2 week
two
period
week
and
wait
then fucking stamp a
period.
serial number on it and
Yeah.
or if it's a little shorty, it's a short something knife, you need
Yeah.
a fucking $200 tax stamp and it's just all bullshit. It's not about gun control at the end of the day. It's just honestly it's about control. Look at all these other countries. For example, I was speaking to a news outlet. What is it? The new Federation of China. Or forgot what
Oh,
they're
wow.
called. Oh my God, I feel so bad. I did an interview with them, and this was at the America Festival, and she gave me the example. Like, look, guns were illegal in China. They were legal. You can own guns and have guns. And then they decided no more guns. They took all the guns away, and guess what happened? A damn genocide happened. They started just murdering its own citizens.
And
So
yeah,
people say that it will never happen in America and the free land of the all that. It can happen anywhere. If you don't think it can happen here, then you are a fool.
absolutely. And we see, like you said, historically, Mao, Cambodia, all these places, the first thing they do, disarm the citizens. And I think it's within 2 years they start just these overt genocides, or they are just killing people to keep them in fear. And all of a
Yeah.
sudden, now they'll still have elections, but all of a sudden, one person will win by like 100%. It's like, come on.
100%
Yeah,
exactly.
it's insanity. So,
Like you can't even say anything. Like look what they're doing in Canada. They're about to have a damn revolution over there.
absolutely. They're getting,
Revolutionary war over there. It's like they disarmed the citizens. Like every damn gun's illegal now.
mhm.
People are getting arrested just for speaking up, thrown in jail.
Yeah, online stuff now, right? And if they get this other guy elected, he's going to be able to actually find them like 50K if they put up a meme that they disagree with. It just happens to
Yeah,
be
exactly. So
like,
I mean, you can see it with our neighbors. They say that the U.S. is the fighters of democracy and all that shit. Well, go fight next door.
yeah,
Because their democracy, their liberty, their all that shit is going away.
yeah, yeah.
So, but again, I mean, my main goal is just to tell people at the end of the day, sound however it sounds, just
Yeah, it
stay strapped, and that's it.
yeah, it's the truth,
Don't let
man.
anybody, not even the government, take it away.
Mm,
Don't be fearful. Stand up for what's right. Stand up for your family, and stand up for your freedom. Because if we don't, our childrens are going to be the one paying the price.
absolutely. Thank you so much for the conversation. Thank you so much for
You're welcome.
your demonstration, brother. Where can we send
Thank
people
you
to
for having me on. What's
anytime?
that?
I was like, where can we send people to support you, to go to your store, to follow you on social? Where would you send people?
So my website I literally got is the one eye defense
I
dot
love
com
it.
number one letter I. That's just, my merch and a few, gun accessories and stuff like that. If you scroll all the way to the bottom, it has my social media links. Uh, but my other website that just actually has all my links, it's
Yes.
my Instagram username, which is GA110 ENT.com.
Awesome.
And
And I'll list all that stuff.
GA110 just stands for, people say gallo, but it's gallo. It's literally a rooster. I'm the only male in a damn house full of females. So they're like, people started calling me rooster. So
I like it.
the 110 is literally stands for the LLO. So gallo. That's my nickname. That's what people call me.
I love it,
A lot
man.
of friends and family, but so yeah, just gallo, ENT. I do music, so stud for entertainment. I
Awesome.
do like my music stuff, but yeah, just J110ENT.com, and that's like my link tree that gives you the links to all my social media page and all that good stuff. You can follow my journey there.
Yeah, go follow him there. Go share this interview out, share his message out, share all of his information out because the more people that know about this, the more people are going to be at least aware of it. And like you said, if this plants a seed and gives somebody the ability to say, you know what, I need to look into buying a pistol. I need to look into what it would take to be able to carry it. And again, when you first carry, you may not be an appendix carry person. You may be doing all of these different kind of things, but once you start doing it and it becomes a habit, like I
It
said,
will get comfortable with time. You'll
absolutely.
forget about it, like
Yeah,
it's not even there,
absolutely. And when it's not there, you feel like I said, like you're missing something.
like
So,
you're missing something.
and it's like anything else, right? If you and I are on a trip and I say, "Are you ready to go?" You're like, "Yeah." And I'm like, "Do we have a spare?" You're like, "Shit, I forgot." When we're on that trip, what are we going to worry about the whole time? A flat tire,
Flat
right?
tire.
So if you have your firearm with you and you have something else to back yourself up with, you don't have to worry about that thing. Like, I hope you never need
Exactly.
it, but man, it's nice if you have to.
Yeah, exactly.
All right, brother. Thank you, my
All right,
friend.
well, thank you so much for having me on. It was a pleasure. I enjoyed
Yes,
this
sir.
conversation
Absolutely.
and yeah, until next time.
Next time, my friend.
All right.